Hello, everybody. Welcome to our webinar number 5, Brand Value and Financial Instruments. Now, today's speakers will be our legal trainee, Olivia Puto, and myself. My name is LexDellmeier. I am attorney at law and certified IP attorney in Germany. Our law firm LexDellmeier is located in Munich, Germany, and we are a total of 9 people specialized in the fields of trademarks, designs, licensing, and copyrights. So, what is today's agenda? We will give a brief introduction of the economic value of a trademark. Then we will go into more detail assessing the value of a brand, key definitions, then talk a little bit about the International Organization for Standardization, then about the ISO standards. Afterwards, we will talk about brand valuation, the importance, the financial instruments, and the process. Afterwards, brand evaluation, framework and importance, and then a few more case studies. So let's get started and let's talk about the economic value of a trademark. Olivia, I hand over the presentation to you.
So dear Alexandra, I have a question. Why have brand valuation and brand evaluation become so important over the past years?
That is a really good and interesting question, Olivia. Let's take a closer look about the increasing importance of brand valuation and evaluation. So bottom line is, in the past 10 to 15 years, businesses and brand owners have seen a fundamental shift in sources of value creation from tangible assets to intangible assets, namely to their intellectual property. So regarding intangible assets, which are also include brands, they are today recognized as highly valuable properties, contribute to revenue and growth, and propel a significant share of brand value within the business. But the question is, how much and how should these brands be evaluated? Well, these questions are taking on increasing significance with financial, legal, and marketing professionals with one main aim, namely objectivity.
And could you please tell us, what is the average share percentage of trademark value to company value?
Well, that is a very interesting question too, and this is something that I hope that the people watching the webinar will remember, because it is a really important number. So here it is, 46% could be your company value based on your trademark or trademarks. Now the question is, where does this number come from? How is this valid? And so on. So we'll talk a little bit about this too.
And is there a breakdown per industry sector, or does the number 46% apply to all the sectors?
No, Olivia. This number 46% does not apply to all industry sectors in the same way. Of course, you have to differentiate between B2B businesses, business to business, or B2C, business to consumer businesses. But there is a general overview and a breakdown. So let's take a look at this. So this is an overview from Brand Rating, which is a company here in Germany that has evaluated over 500 trademarks from different industry sectors. And also, for example, PricewaterhouseCoopers, PwC, come to a similar overview. You know, it's always around 50%. So let's take a look at the breakdown here. As you can see, food and beverages are at the top with 81%. So if you just think about brands like Red Bull, Coca-Cola, Monster, so on, those are really, you know, brands that live off of the trademark. The second place is, of course, not so surprising either. It's the textile and clothing industry. So fashion industry, very strong in trademarks. Then, breaking it down, consumer electronics, household goods, industrial goods suppliers, there you can mainly put the B2B companies. So they would sort of be in that range. Then trade, retail, financial services, energy services. So that's the breakdown of the sectors, and the average across all sectors is therefore approximately 46%. So this is backed up by various surveys, and that's a number you should remember. So the value of your trademark, so the share of your trademark value could be up to 46% of your company value. So let's jump to the next topic, assessing the value of a brand.
We will be talking about some technical issues today. So just to start off, could you please explain to us the terms brand, brand valuation, and brand evaluation?
Yes, I think that's important to understand the different terms that are used in this context, and especially to understand what is the difference between brand valuation and evaluation, because there's only a one-letter difference. So let's start with the key definitions for a brand. So a brand is an intangible asset, including but not limited to names, terms, signs, symbols, logos, and designs, or a combination of these, intended to identify goods, services, or entities, or a combination of these, creating distinctive images and associations in the mind of stakeholders, thereby generating economic benefit. So that's the definition of a brand. It's a little broader than the legal definition of a trademark, but this is important to understand. Next key definition is brand valuation. So this is the measurement of the monetary brand value at a certain point in time. And what is the difference to brand evaluation? So brand evaluation is the measurement of brand strength, brand performance, and financial results using relevant elements and dimensions. So this is the understanding, and these are the key definitions to know when moving onwards in our webinar today.
Does an organization exist that is responsible or has set standards for brand valuation and brand evaluation? And if so, what are its aims and what does it do to achieve them?
That is an interesting question. There does exist an organization, and this is, amongst others, the International Organization for Standardization. Now, this is an independent, non-governmental international organization. It is rather old. It was founded in 1947. And what is its aim? It aims to facilitate world trade by providing common international standards for goods and services. And we've put down the link here where you can take a closer look at this organization. Now, background is, as you will know that different things of the daily life need to be standardized. And just to give you an example, maybe the paper size. So, for example, manufacturers of copying machines need to know what their consumers, what paper sizes to use. So it is good that all of the manufacturers get together and discuss what paper size, is the best for manufacturing purposes and for all kinds of issues. Or if you think of cables, loading cables for mobile phones, in the past, every single manufacturer had their own cables and charging devices with nothing was standardized. So this organization has the ability and the aim to bring together different stakeholders to discuss, what standards should be applied. So this is what this organization does, and they have all also gotten together and standardized brand valuation and brand evaluation issues for trademarks.
So what exact ISO standards exist in relation to brand valuation and evaluation, and what is their content?
So there are two main standards. The first one is ISO 10668, and that relates to the brand valuation, meaning the monetary issues. So this ISO standard has been enforced since 2010. It has been reviewed in 2017, and it is still applicable today. Then on the second side, or on the other side, here seen here, we have ISO 26671, which relates to brand evaluation. And this is rather new. It is in force since 2019. Now, for all people that are members of INTA, the International Trademark Association, they actually have done a task force report now in April 2020. It is available for all members to download, and they have also taken a look at these two standards and done a great summary. So anybody who's interested in that can take a look there too. Now, let's take a closer look and compare these two standards. And I just want to focus on two main issues. So we have the brand valuation here. And as I mentioned before, brand valuation concentrates on monetary issues. Therefore, the type of measures or the responsible person is mainly the financial person in a company or tax lawyer on the outside. The brand evaluation has a bit of a broader perspective. We were talking about brand strength and so on. This is a non-financial issue. So the responsible people are the marketing professionals in that field. So that is a quick overview and a comparison of the two standards and the main differences and issues. So let's jump to the next point, brand valuation.
So my first question regarding brand valuation will be, in what situations do brand owners usually decide to conduct brand valuation?
Well, the reason for conducting brand valuation really depends on the company or the stakeholder. So the overall aim is, of course, management information. Management needs to be informed, and there are different viewpoints why such a brand valuation takes place. First of all, it is important for purchase, sale, and merger of companies or brands. Now, if you sell your company or your brand, you need to know what it's worth, and you need to have a backup and an objective review of the issue. So this is usually the main issue here. Then, of course, there are internal and external corporate reportings are important. It relates to accounting, it relates to tax planning. The issue may become important regarding litigation or dispute resolution. Then, of course, brand licensing. If you license out your brand, you need to know what it's worth, because the more it's worth, the higher the royalty rate will be in the end. And during times of crisis, it is, of course, important to know what the value of the brand is, because you can go to a bank and get a loan on your brand value too. So that's another possibility.
And what benefits does brand valuation have from the brand owner or company's point of view?
Well, the benefits of brand valuation are, of course, first of all, you want to know what income is generated by the intangible assets, or what can a brand actually generate. Then you want to know for what amount can this asset or brand be sold. You can identify growth opportunities, meaning that if you actually have more than one brand and you evaluate those brands, then you know which brand is doing really well, which brand is doing not so well. You can identify the different brands, and then you can think about strategies and growth opportunities. It helps, of course, for strategic planning and the allocation of budgets. And of course, it provides an objective measure for your branding efforts. You can review that. Being measurable is really important nowadays. And of course, it does create accountability. So meaning that if you have a proper valuation according to ISO standards, that is something really important to have.
What financial instruments can be used in brand valuation process?
So this mainly relates to the ISO standard number 10668. And here is a brief overview. So this is the standard here, and in principle there are three approaches: the cost approach, the market approach, and the income approach. The income approach is the normal standard nowadays, and then below that you will see royalty relief, volume premium, price premium, income split, multi-period excess earnings, and incremental cash flow. Now these are all methods, direct and indirect methods, and we're not going to talk about all of them today, but we will pick a couple of them and explain them in a little bit more detail.
So can you please tell us what are the three approaches of brand valuation and which one is most commonly used?
Yes, I'd love to. So the approaches to brand valuation, as seen in the overview before: cost approach, market approach, and income approach. So the cost approach, thereby the value is measured by reference to the cost invested in creating, replacing, or reproducing the brand. This method is not widely used because the value of brands rarely equates to the costs invested in creating them. So a second approach was implemented, that is the market approach. And the value here is measured by references to what other purchasers in the field, in the market, have paid for similar assets. This approach is not widely used either because brands are pretty unique. So this is the most common approach, the income approach, and thereby the value is measured by reference to the economic benefits expected to be received over the remaining useful economic life of a brand. So I'll bring some examples later. Just remember, the income approach is the most common one used.
Thank you for this overview. So could you please tell us what methods of brand valuation there are within the income approach?
Yes, let's take a look at the royalty relief method according to the income approach. So based on the royalty that a company would have to pay for the use of a brand if it did not own it, but instead had to license it from a third party. So this is sort of the royalty rate. So what I'm giving you today is an example. For example, Marriott Hotels, Resorts, and Suites. So bottom line is the family who owns Marriott, the Marriott brand, they own their own hotels, but they also license out Marriott to other hotels, and then the third parties can brand their hotel with Marriott. Now, what is the aim? Of course, the third-party licensees have to comply to certain standards, to agreements, and so on. But bottom line is that if the hotel name has Marriott on it and the brand is very well known and there's a certain quality that is related to the name, then there will be a lot more people sleeping at that hotel than at a no-name brand. So for example, Marriott can therefore request higher licensing fees, and usually the licensing fees may be around 15 to 18% if you have a strong brand. So this is the royalty relief method. I'm bringing a second example here. So this is the price premium method. So how is this method, how does that come into play? Well, that is based on the premises that a branded product should sell for a premium over a generic product. In this case, I've brought in aspirin. So as you know, there are a lot of generic pain reliefs out there. So the price premium method is the difference between a no-name generic product and the aspirin product. So the difference in pricing between the no-name brand and the branded product is the price premium method. So there are a few more, in total 6: volume premium method, multi-period excess earnings method, income split method, and incremental cash flow method. All these methods are usually calculated by financial experts or tax lawyers.
If you write a brand valuation report, what does such a report have to include in order to be ISO compliant?
Yes, ISO has put in its standard 10668 some best practices, and I'm summarizing them here. First of all, you need to have valuation credentials of the valuer. So who is the person actually doing the valuation? Then you have to do like an introductory, what is the purpose of the valuation? What we saw before, is it merger and acquisitions, selling, purchase, internal reasons, whatever. Then the specific brand assets to be valued. Then, of course, the approaches used. Is it the market, cost, or income approach? Then the methods used, for example, the royalty relief method that I just explained on the basis of the sample of Marriott. Then, of course, the valuation date, all data sources, and any key assumptions or sensitivities that may still be of importance.
What practical advice or maybe some recommendations can you give to a brand owner who wants to value his or her brand?
Some practical issues and recommendations. So what companies, actually conduct brand valuations? In general, specialized companies. So on a very international basis, it's Interbrand or PwC, or there are other specialized smaller companies, as mentioned before, Brand Rating or Basalski and Company, that are located here in Munich. All of them evaluate brands B2B and B2C, and also have a focus on family-owned businesses that are very strong here in Germany. So they have a lot of expertise in that field. Then the question is, well, how much does it cost? Well, as a general rule, you can say approximately between 30,000 to 50,000 euros. Of course, it depends. Are you doing it within one country, or are you doing it on a worldwide basis? Then that can become more expensive. So the costs mentioned here are usually, let's say, for one country, for the country here, in this case, Germany. That's an average that you should budget. How long does the process take? So that's an interesting question too. Usually 4 to 8 weeks. First of all, the stakeholders have to sit together and do an outline, and they have to do, what is the aim, all the points that I mentioned before. And that usually, having the outline and the aim usually already takes at least 2 weeks. And then studies have to be done, and all this takes time. So usually 4 to 8 weeks. How often should brand valuations be conducted? Well, of course, it's best if conducted every year, and large companies like Google, Apple, Mercedes, they do that every year because they want to know, what is your brand worth? However, it's a very cost-intensive action to be taken. So my recommendation is to every 2 to 3 years, and that's usually more of the norm.
And taking into account the variety of reasons for which brand valuation can be conducted, and also the number of benefits that it gives, is it the common practice amongst brand owners or company owners to conduct such valuation?
Well, Yes and no. So you see here, this is from a PwC report, actually from 2019. And there was a previous one from 2012, and you can see 2012, approximately 30% of the brand owners actually evaluated their brand or trademark at least once, not once a year, but at least they've done it once. And in 2019, this number has increased significantly. So 46% of all the brand trademark owners have at least once evaluated their brand. So that's a significant increase within those 7 years. Now, jumping to the next issue, brand evaluation.
So can you please tell us what elements the evaluation process consists of?
Yes, so the framework is put down for brand evaluation in ISO 20671. So the second ISO standard that we had been talking about at the very beginning. So here you see on the left-hand side, this what we are talking about now, namely the brand evaluation. And on the right-hand side, what we talked about before, the monetary value and brand valuation. So this is what it looks like: brand development, brand strength, and brand performance. And these are the inputs, intangible quality, so on, and the outputs. So legal, of course, is involved, customer stakeholders, the market, economic and political surroundings, and of course, financial issues. So this and this is an overview of both issues that we are talking about today. Coming to the elements of brand evaluation, we have the brand development, which consists of the 5 elements: tangible resources, quality, service, innovation, and intangible resources, which leads to brand strength, which is an extent to the brand if the brand is regarded in a positive or in a negative way, and how it affects customers and other stakeholders, which leads to brand performance here, which evaluates the brand's impact in the market. And of course, out of this, it follows the financial results. So we've done some groundwork and defined certain things and giving you an outline and a legal and economic basis and a little bit know-how on the standards. Now let's jump to case studies. Now, how do you actually apply all of this, what we have just discussed?
So I was just wondering, what companies have the most valuable brands?
Well, this is a great overview. This is a comparison actually of the year 2007 compared to the year 2019. So in 2007, Coca-Cola was really #1, very high. Microsoft, Walmart, Citi, IBM, General Electric, so on. In 2019, this has changed. As you will see, #1 is Amazon, and then Google, and then Apple. So all these companies have emerged and their brands have really taken off. So this is an overview of the world's most valuable brands and a great comparison in a 12-year difference.
And how much can the price of a product or service depend on the brand?
So here we have a really nice example. I'm taking this from the Munich company Bisalski and Company, which we work with together in case of brand valuation. And here's a sample of the Seat and the Seat Leon and the Volkswagen Golf. So as you can see here, one company, Seat, belongs to Volkswagen. One car platform, the car has the same engine power, 1.4 liters and 125 horsepower, the same fuel gas, and comparable equipment. Now, the interesting issue is, so the price with the Seat Leon is here 21,200 and here 23,100, meaning that the brand, the Volkswagen brand, is in comparison here to 9% stronger. So here is another comparison of a Bosch drill and a Skill drill. Now, what many people don't know is that Skill is the second brand of Bosch. So both drills have similar technical characteristics. However, the Bosch drill is sold for $149.99 and the Skill drill for $79.90. So there is an approximate increase of 95% between the pricing here, meaning that the Bosch trademark is really, really strong for this drill.
And how can the brand affect consumer behavior?
So that's an interesting question, and that is, in order to assess that, you have to come up with creative ideas how you can actually calculate or evaluate that. So in this case, it was a blind testing between Pepsi and Coca-Cola from the beverage industry. And what happened was here, the blind testing revealed 51% prefer Pepsi and 44% Coca-Cola. 5%, thought it was equally good. Interestingly enough, if people saw the brand, saw the bottle that was branded, then all of a sudden, only 23% preferred Pepsi and 65% preferred Coca-Cola. Now everybody's going to say, oh, I know the different taste of Coca-Cola and Pepsi. Well, try it out and do a blind testing and see if you can figure it out. But this was done and this is the result. And I think it's really interesting, having a really strong brand that really makes an impact. So, well, this was what Olivia and I today wanted to teach you. Thank you very much for attending our webinar. And we have put together some sources for you with links, so you can take a look here. Also, what I talked about, the INTA Brand Value Special Task Force report from this year, from 2020, the ISO standards, then the PwC brand surveys from 2012 and 2019, and some other links that are of interest. So all we can say is thank you very much for watching and listening. If you have any questions to trademarks, designs, copyrights, or licensing issues, especially in Germany and the EU, please feel free to contact us. Here is our contact information in Munich. We welcome from hearing from you. Thank you so much, and goodbye.